My guest today on a very special episode of Super Gamer because it's video. It's a recorded interview with video. We've never done that before. But our guest today is from Illyriad Games, which is named after the game Illyriad, their inaugural game, which was very successful. But they have a new game coming out that is kind of hush-hush right now, and I'm holding on to this interview until I can't say it, which is very cool. But our guest today from Illyriad Games is the CEO, James Niesewand. Hello.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great.
So, as I just said, Illyriad Games named after your first game, Illyriad, which was an F2P, BBG, MMO, RTS.
Yeah, yes, that's right. You could probably throw a few other acronyms in there if you want. Kind of we sort of thought that there wasn't anything really epic in the sort of free-to-play browser-based game genre, so we sort of decided to make a very deep, persistent world fantasy game in HTML5. We're very passionate about HTML5. So we launched it 4 years ago, this February. 4 years now. So it's been great. We a little bit over 250,000 registered players. It's less than that active players, it does very well, and it's a great community, and it's taught us, because we're not games people at all. We've never worked in the games industry as well in our background, so it's we've learned a lot about making MMOs, and how to make it fun, and which bits we got right, which bits we've not got right, inevitably.
As far as your past, you just said that you didn't at the time really have any games experience when you first got into this. In fact, you went to university to become a spy? What exactly did you want to become? You were a Middle East specialist.
Yeah, I went to a place called SOAS, which is part of London University. It's the School of Oriental and African Studies. It's popularly known as the School of Overseas Anglo Spies. It basically was sort of it's known for putting out people who might go into the United Nations or the Foreign Office or Diplomatic Service or BBC World Service and obviously the security services too. But no, I went there because I really actually was just fascinated. I loved the Arabic language, so I actually went there originally reading Arabic and then changed after a year to a politics degree to specialize in Middle Eastern politics. Because actually I just find the Arabic almost too difficult.
I was just going to ask, do you speak Arabic?
شوية بس أنا أتكلم اللغة.
I see that by your LinkedIn, you at least speak a little bit of French as well.
Yeah, a little.
Called yourself a man cheese.
Un petit peu seulement.
Or the big cheese, I should say.
I could make my way through it, I guess. Sort of did languages. I've always sort of done languages, which I think helps a lot. Things like gaming and coding. There's a lot of.
Well, I was going to say, how does your schooling? I've read that what you learned in school actually was perfect to teach you how to run a business, and then how do you go from there to running a game business?
Yeah. After I left university, I kind of worked in the Middle East and in companies around the Middle East for a while, but I actually wasn't enjoying it very much. And an opportunity came up to get in on the ground floor of a .com startup, a travel company called Online Travel Corporation, OTC. We did the whole route, venture capital, fundraising, and eventually floated on the London Stock Exchange in 2000, just as the .com bubble was deflating very, very rapidly. It was a very bad time to be on the stock, getting an IPO out the door. But actually, OTC was a real company. It wasn't a .com pure .com. It basically provided a lot of travel technology and call centers and contracting. And so we actually, we were a proper travel company. And so the company grew to about 350 people, I think, in total, and we were bought by lastminute.com, which you may know them, in 2005, I think it was, and they were bought a year later by Sabre Travelocity. So I sort of consulted for the expanded group. I think I put the con and the insult into consulting for a couple of years, and then had a midlife crisis. completely. It was like buying a red Porsche or starting a games company, and I thought, well, games company sounds much more fun. So that's what I'll do. With no experience.
As far as
yeah.
I shouldn't say this actually because you're married, but I was going to say a midlife crisis usually isn't that to get women. I think probably the Porsche would have done a lot better than the game company.
Yeah, maybe. Although, and this is really weird. Illyriad, the first game, our first title, and still going strong. Love it. Great game. And a great community, but we actually have slightly more female players than male in the game, and that's real gender, not in-game avatar gender.
Right.
So it's a very it probably is a great way of meeting women, but my wife will kill me when she sees it. So.
Any idea why you've got more women than men playing? Why are they drawn to Illyriad?
We've got a very welcoming community. It's a very slow-paced game, Illyriad. It's it'll take you 6 months to get out of the tutorial. It's slow. So we lose a lot of the kind of the Twitch gamers and the people who want rapid, who basically want to advance very rapidly and kill people. If you come into the game and you want to form an army and you want to wipe out a noob, it's going to take you 6 months to a year to get to that point. So it's a very slow-paced game, and we've got an awesome community, genuinely awesome. It's the only game you can try it out for yourself. Start an account, it's free. Go into global chat, where everyone talks, and say, "Hi, I'm new here. Can anyone give me any advice?" And you will be sent free stuff by everyone. They will just start bombarding you till your warehouses overflow with free goods, because that's the kind of community. They're very welcoming. They're very nice. If you go in there and say, WTF, BBQ, pornage, then they're not maybe so welcoming, and so it kind of self-moderates itself. It's an ultimate PvP game. That's what's so bizarre about it. You can completely destroy someone's cities and raise them and basically start them again as a new account. After 7 days of protection, that's free for all. And because of that sort of mutually assured destruction, I think the community is really nurturing. And if someone does attack a noob for any reason, the whole community will gang up on the guy who did it and force him out of the game, and will defend the noob. There's a very strong sort of moral code going on in that game, which it's like capturing lightning. I don't quite know how we did it. I think our community manager, Leela, has a lot to do with that. But also, the pace of the game helps. It gets people who are much more thoughtful. Our average age of our player is 36. 40% of our players are university graduates or better educated. So we have a very unusual demographic, I think, for a free.
So smart people play this game.
Yeah, well, and it's,
or at least people who have paid to look smart.
Well, and it's a game which rewards smartness. There's a huge number of tactics and strategies. You can spy, you can scout, you can sabotage, assassinate, you can blockade people, trade embargoes. You can, it's not just here's an army and I'll send it out. There's an awful lot to it. It's got a map, a full with biomes and terrains, a fractally generated map. It's got NPCs, but also with NPC AI and a full emergent behavior model. So we actually, rather than saying there are tigers and this is what they do, we load in parameters to say, well, actually, this is the way tigers behave. This is their chance of spawning, nesting, territorialism, their aggression, their food preferences, their biome preferences, and then we put them in the map, and then we let them roam, and they actually, all of nature interacts in a model using AI to keep everything going, and to actually have them settle in their natural terrain and so on. And that also means that we end up with really cool weirdnesses. We had some creatures called poisonous crawlers, and one mating pair of poisonous crawlers ended up crossing the ocean on a whim and finding a perfect abandoned island which was perfect terrain for them to reproduce, and the whole island just became overrun by them. It's their own little Galapagos island, I guess, and the players are now trying to find ways of controlling the population because it's got too much, so they're trying to find ways of pushing their natural predators towards this island and stuff. It's it's insane. So we I guess to answer your original question, we like to build complex systems that can self-regulate and self-manage and allow players to adjust them. If players want to wipe out the population of polar bears, they can. You'll find that there'll be a whole bunch of other players who will start to Save the Polar Bear Alliance. Then that's the kind of game, the kind of people we have. Yeah.
I have a few questions coming out of that. How is there still, because it's obviously a finite space, right? It's a world. There's a map, and there's no more to it. With all those players and with more coming in, how is there still room for these creatures to find uncharted territory?
It is a big map, but it is getting full. I mean, there's when I say big map, there's a bit over 4 million city settleable locations in it. So there is quite a lot of space, but it is getting quite full now because alliances are beginning to have been laying claim to territories and saying, okay, this is our island and you can't settle on it and stuff. How does that change when new players come in then, if they come to a game where, I can't just make a city? All new players start with a city, and because of the nature of the game being very slow and deliberately, and it requires patience, we do lose a lot of people very quickly. About 80% of all people who start the game abandon it within a couple of days. Now, if you make it to the end of week 2, you're going to stay playing it forever. I mean, that's kind of the curve. And we... Oh, sorry, you can see people probably moving around.
That's all right.
It's
busy place?
Yeah, absolutely. This is our room. This is the 80% office.
We should say, actually, that you were in Microsoft's office
I am.
now.
This is, yeah. I run a tiny indie games company. Do you think I can afford these big touch screens and stuff? No. This is Microsoft's offices. Badge. So we're
far too blurry to read, but we'll believe it.
Oh well, I'll hold it still.
All right. There you go.
Yeah. So Microsoft have lent us office space for a couple of months. It's very nice of them.
Which we will get into.
Yeah.
I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but as far as Illyriad, obviously I see now how a degree in politics can help with a game like this. Do you find that it kind of mimics the real world, or has it gone completely off the rails?
No.
Like, wow, I didn't think it would go this way.
It mimics the real world. And if you go on the forums, which are public, just have a look. There are people trying to set up United Nations and League of Nations type things. There are people who write 15,000-word legal charters for the administration of the territories near them. It's a very committed, and I mean that in the sense of passionate, as opposed to being a mental asylum, very committed player base that really, really do care passionately about it, and that's wonderful. It's the most wonderful thing to have. It's been a joy to have this community, and they keep us. Well, they try and keep us honest. I have to say straight out, because I'm sure a lot of indie players will watch this. I know I've been neglecting you a bit for the last 6 months, and I'm sorry. We've been a bit busy on this 80% thing, but then you'll see it all comes full circle very shortly. And we'll have time to spend back on Illyriad again. We've always, to explain, Mark, we've always done lots of updates to Illyriad. We had a very fast release cycle, and it's slowed down. So we always used to release expansion packs like NPC, animals, and nature, and released sieging, a bit after, so capturing cities and towns, and then we released a bit of, there's all new stuff coming through. We did a big trade update and crafting, but we have the next big update that we're doing is called the Broken Lands, and it's actually doubling, going back to your original question, doubling the map of size. It's a new continent that's been discovered in the south, and it basically brings us double the size of the map. We just haven't had a chance to integrate it yet, but it's nearly there.
Obviously, one of the big things in Illyriad would be a market, right? Goods get traded and sold and that kind of thing. How do you avoid falling into the trap that Diablo 3 had, where the auction house became the game? That people weren't even playing anymore. It was just, let's make gold and I'll buy my items and I'm set.
That's a very good question. It's a fully player-driven economy. We don't have any NPC forces in terms of the NPCs aren't selling goods. You can get items from NPCs. For example, you kill a pack of wolves and you'll get wolf skins. You harvest minerals. So there are forces into the economy in some way, but the economy is entirely player run and it's generally quite stable. I mean, obviously, when there's a big war, there's a massive war currently going on in the game. Between some of the biggest alliances, not still to this day quite sure why, what the war's about. But it's probably because I haven't been following it that carefully.
Isn't that every war?
Well, yeah, it's casus belli and justifications for war, and the forums are full of people talking about what everyone's motives are, and I still to this day don't really know. But we've been following the war from a technical perspective, from its what it'll do to the economy, and also what it'll do to the other players, and what it's doing to player retention and all of that sort of stuff. So
you must
war, yeah. Sorry,
you must have a favorite in the war then.
No.
Or do you?
Oh, no. We don't.
No.
We don't participate in.
Well, I know you don't participate, but you must watch as a fan. No. This is going to really screw things up.
Not really. We've had a couple of wars before, and whilst wars are quite good, for example, for us, we want more players to stay in the game, and whilst wars are quite good for player engagement, people are fighting wars, so for a 6-month period, they're playing a lot more, they're spending a lot more time in the game, they're inviting their friends in to help them win the war, but at the end of these things, there's always there's usually a losing side, and that losing side often, not always, but it does happen. People emo rage quit. So wars aren't necessarily good for the game. They're not necessarily bad for the game either. They've got a sort of a short-term effect and a long-term effect. And it slightly depends on what the terms of surrender are and how punitive they are. And obviously we would hope that no one's fighting other people to actually throw them out of the game. But equally, we can't dictate that to our players. Players can do anything they want, theoretically. So players can do anything they want, and we don't. We try not to get involved. The only thing is, if anyone breaks terms of service, or if anyone starts, we have strict rules on code of conduct in the game. But in terms of what you can actually do in the game, it's a sandbox, and we don't interfere. And we don't play favorites. We are often accused of playing favorites, but mostly that happens by players on both sides. Both sides accuse us of neglecting their petitions or their support tickets or whatever. You're secretly helping these guys by ignoring me with the support ticket, and it's kind of like, well, no, we just have a queue of tickets, so we go down.
I wonder if God gets prayers like that.
Oh, yeah.
You're secretly helping those other people. How do you deal with cheating? People must make bots and send stuff to their own account, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they do. We have rules. You can only have 2 accounts, and people do this, and we have built-in detection mechanisms. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail about, but we're pretty good at getting rid of cheaters, and pretty good at identifying them. But yeah, it does happen. But again, on the whole, the community is quite quick to spot it, and also quite quick to report people. And sometimes, when there's a big war on, the first thing, the opening salvo in the war is usually a flurry of petitions from both sides to us saying they're cheaters. He's got more than 2 accounts, and there's a lot of tit for tat on that. And some of it's merited, and some of it's not. And we'll always look into each case.
Do alliances ever get into propaganda wars or cold wars even?
Oh, a propaganda war. I think that some people would call the forum a propaganda war. I mean, genuinely, have a look at the Illyriad forum. You will be shocked at the level of propaganda, vitriol, people do campaign posters, people write documents. I mean, it's the most extraordinary thing. People write histories of the battles and histories of the war, and then everyone argues about whether the history was accurate, or history is written by the victors. No, it's not, because it really is a very, very involved and passionate and very special community. But yeah, have a look at the Illyriad forum.
I will.
That's
so
shocked.
Cool.
You'll be really shocked. The Alliance and Politics and Diplomacy forum is the place to start.
All right. I guess we can move on to Age of Ascent, which is kind of the main reason we're talking.
Yeah.
Very much the main reason, really. But would it be fair to say Age of Ascent is sort of a newer, better version of Illyriad? Or is that not fair?
It's a very good question. In some ways, yes, because we have learned a lot about Illyriad that we're going to be putting into Age of Ascent. But in other ways, no, because Illyriad is an MMO, and there are a lot of systems that we've built for Illyriad that are actually going to be the same systems in Age of Ascent. Now, Age of Ascent is a space-based MMO. You might think, well, what's the fancy MMO and space-based MMO got in common? Well, they've got chat, they've got forums, they've got alliance management, they've got trading systems for buying and selling goods, there's a lot of stuff. They've got NPC artificial intelligence algorithms, there's a lot of stuff in Illyriad that we developed for it that we'll be bringing over to Age of Ascent, and vice versa. As we code things differently in Age of Ascent, we will bring them back into Illyriad, because the system, there's no reason why the system can't be the same. It's just it's in a different setting. So we've designed our code extremely modularly. Age of Ascent is a very different game to Illyriad in the sense that it's a space-based MMO with direct piloting and dogfighting. That's Illyriad's a largely two-dimensional map-based game. Though we do have a WebGL 3D version of the map that we've always been wondering about putting in. So I think there'll be a lot more crossover than people think, or people might suspect. And there's also all the back-end systems as well. In both games, we're going to need a mechanism for taking payments, PayPal integration, Google Wallet, all that sort of stuff. And those systems, they don't need to change. They can just come over wholesale. So I think there'll be a lot of crossover into, what helps Illy will help Age of Ascent and vice versa.
Right. Age of Ascent is going to be huge, right? Like really, really huge.
Like really
more than we've ever seen, right?
Yeah. I'm sure everyone's just going to be saying straight away, bullshit. Age of Ascent is... God, this is going to sound awful. It's going to sound like hubris as well. The gods must strike me down. But we are going to be launching the game with... Well, not launching the game. Launching a public alpha test of the dogfighting module, basically, which is just flying around space and shooting people. And we're going to do a world record attempt on that day to break the world record for the world's largest player versus player battle. It's currently held by EVE Online, another space-based game, and I'm a massive fan of EVE Online. But we're doing this with real time, and we're doing it with direct piloting of spaceships. And hopefully we will break that world record. We're really looking forward to it. And we're very confident.
EVE Online to set their world record. I'm not sure that they ever really planned to set it. I should have looked that up, but I didn't.
I didn't think they did plan to set it, but yeah.
They had to slow down the game, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't really real time, or I guess
it wasn't real time. But I mean, to be fair, the world record for the world's largest PvP battle doesn't actually specify it has to be in real time. But they use a system called time dilation, where they slow the server clock down as the node gets under pressure. So the more people pile in, to stop the game, the node from actually collapsing, they slow down times to allow the server to keep up. And that's cool because it actually keeps the node up, and that's very cool. And I think at some point then they close the gate so no one else can get into the system. So when they're reaching that, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they do that just to protect the node. But that's a feature of EVE Online's architecture. They have single servers or single logical boxes that actually represent the system. And whilst you can throw more CPUs and more RAM at a box, it will always have an upper limit to what it can support as a single box running a single world and a single view of the world. And what we've been doing, we basically we met up with Microsoft at a awards ceremony in the UK last year, about a year ago. They'd phoned us up a few weeks before and said, you guys sound interesting. Can you come meet us and have a chat about what you're doing? I nearly fell off my chair, and the last thing you're expecting. We're a tiny company, 5 people, of whom 3 are part-time. That's the kind of scale of company we are. And when Microsoft said they wanted to talk to us, we were a bit surprised. But it turns out that they're spending a lot of time and effort on really getting to know what challenges indies face and what they can help with. They've got some awesome programs like BizSpark. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. This is a free program from Microsoft that you can sign up to that gives you 5 years of free Microsoft licenses and free cloud servers. You just sign up, and if your turnover goes over $1 million in a single year, then you have to start paying your license fees. It's kind of like, for an indie, 5 years to get it right and to have some cloud access and all the Microsoft licenses you want. That's quite compelling. So we were a BizSpark partner because we wanted the free Microsoft license. We had this meeting with them, and they said, well, what do you want to do with this game, 80%? We said, well, this is what we're planning. And they're like, really? And they were the first people. They were literally the first people we'd ever talked to who hadn't said, this is insanity, what you want to do. Everyone keeps on telling us that what we want to do is impossible. TCP/IP can't handle it. You can't have that much network traffic. You can't do this. And they're wrong. Just flat out wrong. And they know they're wrong because they see it working every day. Every time they go to Google and they type into their search bar, as every keystroke you're pressing, it's sending data back to Google. Google's analyzing it, working out, looking at your history of what you've been searching for recently, and starts giving you suggestions before you've even hit the next key. And that's over the internet. So the trading systems on Wall Street, the operating system formerly known as your mortgage, 70% of that goes through algorithmic trading systems, and they are monitoring prices, have a rules engine, a decisions engine, and sending out messages. And they're doing it in 6 microseconds. Now, these things are possible, they're out there. It's just no one's really sort of connected them up to the games industry before. I don't know if people have tried and failed. I don't know. But that's what we've done, basically. And what we've built is probably, if you've got a gaming MMO network backplane over here, and you've got a Wall Street algorithmic trading company over here, we're sort of here. I mean, the latencies that we're working with and the tolerances are tiny. Infinitesimal. Invented our own unit of time called the hypertick because microseconds we were still getting collisions, so we had to go, and we didn't really want to start using nanoseconds too much. So it's very extreme what we're doing, and it's working. We've done stress tests and we've done real tests with real players. Microsoft very sweetly have provided their internal mailing list, so we've had Microsoft staff flying around in space and blowing each other up, and then we load it up with simulated traffic.
How many players have you had at once total? Like, what do you think is the max you could do?
I don't want to answer that question.
Okay.
I'll just say straight out. The short answer is we don't know. We don't know how many players we can get in. We do know we can get more than Eve's current world record, but we don't know how many players we can get in. And that's one of the things we're going to find out on this world record attempt. We're using standard hardware and standard stuff. I mean, I think a lot of people would think, well, Microsoft, they've given them, a supercomputer somewhere. No, they haven't. We're using standard Windows Azure large instances. We're not even using extra large ones, because we want everyone to know that they too can do this. We're in India. It's not like we've got special stuff from Microsoft. It's very important. I think that everyone understands that this is just standard equipment that anyone can get. So we've got a certain number of servers to spool up, and we don't know how much traffic they'll be able to take in total. The architecture is it shares the load across all of the boxes in terms of both network traffic and the CPU and the physics engines. So it is theoretically, I think, scalable to a very large size, but we haven't actually done it except on stress tests. In the stress tests we've done, things are looking very nice, but there's no substitute for having real players.
Now, I got to see at least a couple stress test videos.
Yeah, it got leaked. That video, it got leaked over the weekend. I know. So I think quite a lot of people have managed to see some of that stress test video, and the comments that have come back so far from people has just bullshit. This isn't possible. Because I'm talking on the video and saying what we're doing, and yes, I do say we loaded the system up to 5,000 players at one point. It's on tape. So, and that was on 6. I do say that on tape as well. That was on 6 or 8 servers. I guess for the world record attempt, we're probably going to be going out with 190 servers. So you can probably sit down and do a maths calculation on that. But I would hesitate. I would say you probably shouldn't, because there are also going to be bottlenecks that occur at scale. But we're hoping to not only break but actually annihilate that world record. So we want everyone to come along when we do it. So I will announce it later. Just so everyone knows, it's sorry, I'm doing my plug bit now. I hope you don't mind.
No,
the plug for the record is the game is written in WebGL. This is an HTML5 programming language, so it runs natively in your browser. And actually, I'll send you a URL in a minute, and you can have a look, and maybe we can have a bit of a dogfight. But it runs natively in your browser, so you don't have to download or install software. No Steam, nothing like that. It just turn up with a modern web browser, IE11, Chrome, Firefox, Opera, even. Not Safari, sorry. Apple turn off WebGL by default, and we haven't really tested it on Safari at all, because if they turn off WebGL by default, most people by default won't be able to play the game. It's free, and we're not even going to require registration or setting up accounts or anything. Just turn up and get in the game. Yeah, obviously you need to be online. In terms of hardware, it's very, very low end. I play it on my crappy laptop behind me. It's a $400 laptop, HP Pavilion G6. I probably shouldn't say it's crappy. Single processor, default Intel graphics card, 3 years old. That runs it. It will run on something like a Surface RT Pro. So it will run on a tablet. I think a normal Surface, I think it might struggle, but that sort of stuff. So it's you don't need anything really special to play. So please come along, and we'll be releasing a date very, very shortly. It's going to be in the next weeks rather than months, and everyone can come along and see it.
You said that the game is completely free. Am I wrong in that Illyriad had some microtransactions, like you could speed things up, production and that? Is there going to be the same thing in this?
Yeah, it will be a free-to-play. Well, it's most likely to be a free-to-play. Free-to-play gets very bad press, and actually quite fairly, because most free-to-play games are, they either cripple the interface if you don't pay them, or they cripple the game speed if you don't pay them, or they continually bombarding you with messages to buy money and buy the in-game currency and all the rest of it. I think if you talk to our players in Illy, or in fact journalists have written articles about our payment model. There's a article on massively.com where it's called comparing the payment models of Illyriad and RuneScape, and which I could probably pull it up and give you the quote here, but the journalist who wrote the article said that we're simple, cheap, and the things that we sell don't significantly affect gameplay. And that's really important to us. We don't allow pay to win. We can't allow pay to win in our games because, very simply, we do persistent MMOs. So if someone's been playing the game for 4 years, you cannot have a situation where a guy can pitch up on day one with a credit card that's big enough and then beat the other guy who's been playing the game for 4 years. It doesn't work like that. If most pay-to-win games are set in servers that shut down after 6 months and restart, or they're short-term, short-lived games. We're a persistent game. We don't do server resets. So people are playing this game after 4 years. And if we allowed pay-to-win, you can guarantee that they wouldn't still be here. And only about 22% of our players actually monetize. They actually choose to buy Prestige. Prestige is the name of your in-game currency. The average transaction size is 4 cents. We are very, very cheap. I'm not saying we'll be quite that cheap on 100%. But yeah, we don't. Obviously we've got to make money. We can't be a completely free game. But equally, certainly if you're doing persistent world MMO, you can't allow pay to win. You can't sell gold ammo. I mean, gold rounds and stuff. We're not going to be doing that because it's self-defeating for us and for the players. So, yeah.
To not reset the browser, obviously that's much better for anyone playing for 4 years, as you said. Does it make it harder for for new players to get into the game because they're like, oh, I have so much ground to make up?
There's a bit of that, but then you also have that in Eve. Eve's system of skill points over time. A pilot who's been around for 7 years has a built-in advantage over a pilot who hasn't. Has only just started.
Which I guess they should have an advantage. They've been there for 7 years.
It's a question of It's a question of balancing it, because you want to reward your players who stuck around and stuck with you through the good times and the bad times, and who are your most passionate players. They've got to have a reason to be the king of the heap. Equally, the new players coming in also have to have a role that they can usefully perform. The way it certainly works in Eve, at least in my experience, is new players come in and they join an alliance, and or a corporation. They start at the low levels, flying simple, easy fit ships and all the rest of it, and they will work up. And as they get better and better, they get and they become more useful. But there's always things that people can do in game that, or even outside of the game, that make them more useful. For example, if you're a new player in a game like Eve, you can, if you learn to fly a transport ship, which you can do quite relatively easily, you can start doing management of resources for the Alliance and ferrying things around. And there's always useful stuff to be done. Now, in Age of Ascent, we're not allowing pay to win. It's just not. It's not in our DNA. It's not in our DNA. It's such a horrible phrase. Sorry, but we're allergic to it. We have a 6 principles of game design document that we put out, and pay to win is self-defeating is one of our 6. So rest easy.
Okay. Getting back to the stress test videos. The first thing I noticed is there's a lot of bullets, like millions and millions of laser bullets going all over the place.
Yeah. How
do you even know, like with so much happening at the same time, how do you really follow what's happening on screen and even know what you're doing?
Well, it's going to be quite interesting because I don't think anyone knows how the players are going to react. I mean, we're not cramming tens of thousands of players into one tiny area of space. We're spreading them out over a bit of space. But if they all choose to meet, they'll be able to see each other. You'll be able to see all the distant ships. One of the things that we've seen a lot of in different games. I won't mention any names, but there was a recent video up there where it was showing off dogfighting and space. When I first saw it, I thought this is set underwater. I thought this was a space game. It was all dark and green and murky, and asteroids suddenly pop into view when you're 10 feet away from them. And I can stand on a cloudless night and look up and see satellites going overhead from Earth. The space doesn't. What are these space clouds? So we really believe in epic distance. And actually, let me just share my screen with you, and hopefully you'll be able to see some of what I'm talking about here. Also, let me send you a URL so you can jump in.
Oh, this is cool. I'm right in it.
Has it loaded?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the full download. You've just downloaded and installed the whole game over the internet. That's how many seconds did that take?
About 2.
Yeah. Okay. And is it looking good?
Actually, is there supposed to be other people or other things flying around? Because right now it's just me in the background. But I can look around.
Yeah, have a look around and have a look. Do you have?
Oh, there we go.
Have you got carriers and the Earth and the Moon?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Okay, I don't know. Ooh, was that you firing?
Oh, it must be.
Yeah, well, fire again so I can see you. Oh yeah, okay. All right, I'm flying towards you now. I'm firing too. I'm on your team, so I can't actually do any damage.
I see.
We decided to do this as a team-based game.
So, how do I move forward?
R and F for your speed buttons. There we go.
Oh, cool.
Now you'll notice, I'll fly past you. You'll notice that my ship is a little bit jerky at the moment. We have smooth ship interpolation turned off, it will be very smooth when the full game's there. It's just not smooth now. And that's actually by design, because it's useful to see every single update. So every time I move my ship, every time you press fire, every time I press fire, you can hear it. And bear in mind, you're playing this from Canada, and I'm playing this from London, Reading.
Yeah, and it took no time at all.
The server is on the East Coast, US. If you look down the bottom right of your screen, do you see it says connection? Mm-hmm. You'll have a number. It'll say East US something.
Yep, number 1.
Okay, if you, I don't know if I'm sharing my screen with you.
I can see just Age of Ascent right now.
Okay,
here we go. Logo.
I'm just going to share my screen with you so you can see that.
Cool.
I've got 2 browsers up here, and you'll see. Is that being shared now?
Yep.
Yep. This one on the left is on East US North, and this one on the right over here is on East US 2. So you, me, both of these browser windows and you, we're all on different servers. So this is inter-server communication in real time, which is, I guess, kind of the holy grail of cloud gaming. You also see how many, the bandwidth and the bits per second. So yeah, this is how it looks. Obviously, no one else obviously is in this game. This is the secret beta dev URL. Unless anyone, guys, if anyone wants to jump in and kill a journalist. He's on the blue team.
How much space is there to explore? Like, if I was a pacifist and wanted nothing to do with your battle, could I just go to the other end of the universe?
For the full game, yes. For the record, obviously, this is all about dogfighting in space. So we're actually literally you will be able to fly down the whole line of carriers, the whole line of battle if you wish. But in the full game, because we don't do sharding, we don't. If you look at a game like Eve or a game like World of Warcraft, when you move from one zone to another, you have to go in through gates, and then you basically are put onto a different server, and that loads up. We don't have to do that because our space is elastic and flexible and expands and contracts in terms of the servers running that area of space. It's dynamically assigned. And so, yes, we will have jump gates and trade lanes and stuff. So if you want to get from one end of the galaxy to the other very quickly, you can. But equally, if you want to do a surprise attack on someone and you want to fly 20 billion kilometers up 50 trillion light years across and 20 billion kilometers down and come in from an unusual vector, you don't have to go through the jump gates because everything is it's one elastic area of space, which is very cool. We're that's the advantage of doing it this way. Anyway.
I recently, a friend of mine in Winnipeg let me play. He's making a game for Oculus Rift.
Oh, okay.
And it's a space game, and you fly around. Actually, it's quite similar, which this kind of makes me think of.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, how cool would it be if this were eventually on the Oculus Rift, and there was this massive, 10,000 person battle happening literally around you.
We would love to do that. I mean, that will certainly be one of our Kickstarter stretch goals. It's not on our must-have plan, but it's on our hell we'd like to. So yeah, Oculus Rift support will definitely be a stretch goal. Definitely. I'm actually quite a long way away from you at the moment. I don't know where you are.
I was fighting a red.
Oh yeah, no, I can see you. Now, I'm a very long way away from you, but I'm firing at you. Don't worry, I'm blue, so I can't kill you. But I'm firing in your direction. But you'll be, you can start to get a sort of sense of how much space there is. How everything is connected.
It does feel. Oh, never mind. I can do that. I was going to say it feels like I want to use the mouse to look around, but I can.
Yes, you can. Yeah, absolutely. Use your. Actually, mouse flight's much easier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. You're in blue, and as I say, you'll have to get some slightly jerky shit movement here. Ooh. Ha!
Oh, there's a battle.
Yeah. Sorry, that was me. Was I killing you, Neil? Oh, sorry about that. Now. Let me stick some load in so you can see that epic bullets stuff that you were talking about. Okay, let me just start. Okay, let me start. That's 100 ships. They're static. We're not moving them. They are sending position updates. We're just telling them that they're not moving. But every single one of those bullets that you see is a network message coming across. It's 100 ships going fire, and they're firing, I think, 8 times a second, is it? Yeah. 8 times a second. So now that's 100. Now let me stick in 1,000 to add on top of that 100. Take a little bit of time for the connections to spool up.
Oh no, I'm getting shot from all angles.
Now, that's pretty epic. Now that's 1,100 ships sending out 8 bullets a second each, and that's rendering in your browser, in your web browser. That's yeah.
I had to
we think it's just incredibly epic. I'm just going to stick in another 1,000.
The load tool does have its limits.
Yeah, I know. You can hear everyone over here saying the load tool has its limits.
As we said before we actually started here, I don't really have a way to show people what's actually on my screen, and what I'm seeing on your screen is a lot choppier than what I saw. Is there a way that we could, as you said earlier, we could just splice in you playing around or something?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm recording this video, so I'll just send it all to you. I'll render it out tonight and send it to you, so you can see what everyone else is saying. So Marcus has just informed me the actual load test tool itself is the bit having the problem. It's not the servers themselves, which are very happy. So hopefully this, you've seen flying around and moving, and you've seen how it works, and you've seen a bit of a load test. As I say, that's 2,000 chips, firing 8 bullets a second. I'm not going to put any more load in, unless you say I can, Marcus.
You can get up to about 3,000.
Okay. Here we go. Here's another 1,000 apparently. But this is
pandemonium.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I'll do this video up. But yeah, there is. This is.
Getting back to my question about all the bullets and knowing what's going on and all thing, I remember when I first played Battlefield, and the map was huge, and I would spawn and I'd get shot, and I'd spawn and I got shot. like within
Yeah.
seconds. Could that maybe I guess, as you said, there's not going to be a battle of this scale all that often, so probably unlikely that you will. Or what happens, like if you get shot, do you die? Is that it? You're done, or do you spawn again?
For a world record attempt, absolutely. You get shot, you die, you respawn. It basically says press here to rejoin the battle, and you just come back in. Again, what we're doing with this world record attempt is we are it's a demo, it's a proof of concept basically. It's like, okay guys, this is possible and we're doing it and we want you to join in, and it's free and it's no install, no download. So you've got nothing to lose. Just come along and fly in space and kill things. Then that's all we're demoing here. Obviously, everyone's going to be in the same ship, the same guns, with the same range, with the same engines, with the same. The full MMO will have lots of hulls, lots of modular ship design, and there's a lot of really cool stuff we're going to be doing with that. But this is basically a proof of concept that this can be done, and it can be done in the browser. And we really hope people will say, well, actually, that's a Kickstarter. I'll stick $15 into because I really want to play this. I really want to see this game finished, and that's what we want to get to. I know there are a lot of space games doing Kickstarters or have done Kickstarters, and they're all great. And I'm really looking forward to Starters, and I'm really looking forward to Elite Dangerous. And these are titles that Wing Commander and Freelancer and Elite are the things that I grew up loving, and I'm really looking forward to them. But we're not really competing with them because we're just our thing is scale. Our thing is we want to be able to do 10,000 people in a single battle. I'm sorry, I'm saying numbers again. I really should stop that. But that's where we want to. We want that to be possible. We want that to be possible and elastically possible. So we don't have to prearrange it. We don't have to. If a ruckus kicks off at one part of a galaxy, or an invasion fleet arrives from Alliance A to Alliance B, it's got to just seamlessly go here. And because you can play it in your browser, you can play it from Word. Who will know? I didn't say that.
In the full game, what happens if you go in a dogfight and you die?
Well,
is that it?
No. Your character will remain, but you will lose your ship. Yeah. It's kind of a follow-on from what we've done with Illyriad. If you lose your town, you've lost your town. If you lose your army, you've lost your army. You might be able to salvage some of the kit if it's left behind, or some friend. But yeah, it will be a PvP game. Not exclusively. We will have safe areas of space where people can mining and industry and manufacture. But one thing that one way in which we're really differing, I think, is that what we've decided to do is we're actually using the real Milky Way star catalogue. So we're actually setting this. The whole idea of Age of Ascenders, it's humanity's ascent into heaven. So the real crux of it is all about it's got to be real world and real science as much as possible. Obviously there's got to be acceptable breaks from reality. We can't have relativity. We have to have fast and light comms. We have to have fast and light travel and warping space. We have to have maximum speeds for ships. You can't take a 200, 400 ton ship and then accelerate it up to near the speed of light and smash it into the Earth and destroy the planet. That's not good gameplay for the rest of the players. So there are things that we have to build in that aren't real, but we are using the real world star map. So we are getting a lot of assistance from a lot of the space agencies around the world. For helping us out.
I was waiting to bring this up.
Yeah,
we were talking to NASA about this.
Well, yeah. In the most surreal moment, and you'll find the photo online, but His Royal Highness the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, fifth in line to the throne, came and visited us in December. At this desk is the desk you see in the photo with the game on the screen, and we had a long chat. And one of his, he's really bright and fantastically helpful. And one of the things he said was, well, what are you having most problems with in terms of the future planning of your game? And I said, well, actually, none of us are astrophysicists or cosmologists or so on. And whilst we're all keen amateurs, I live in Cape Canaveral in Florida. I watch rocket launches as a passion. We're all keen amateurs, but we're not. I'd love someone to run me through the mathematics of Lagrange points. I need someone to talk to me about the data collected by Kepler on planets and exoplanets. How can we extrapolate that to a model of the rest of the Milky Way, and all of these sort of questions. Anyway, he said straight out, well, I'll put you in touch with the Rutherford Appleton Laboratories. RAL Space, it's the Rutherford Appleton Laboratory Space Program. The director, Richard Holdaway, met with us. Was very keen on it. Said this is great. We'll be delighted to answer all your questions, and any questions we can't answer, or any questions we don't think we have all the expertise to answer, we'll put you in touch with other people. So we've now sort of got people at NASA Goddard, and NASA JPL, and people at European Space Agency, and people at UK Space Agency, and people at RAL Space, and people at university departments around the world answering questions for a games company about the relative elemental abundance in spectrographic analysis of star systems at a remote distance, and it's kind of mental. But we're trying to really get this all right, and to get it right. And we don't want unobtainium. We don't want randomly made up elements that just around. We're using the periodic table as our basic building block. So if you're a miner or a manufacturer, you will be extracting ores and minerals from things, and you will be breaking them into their elemental parts and then recombining them in a manufacturing process to make a laser at the end of it, or a spaceship or whatever. But that's the kind of thing I mean. So it's we want as much real science to be in the game as possible, and we're getting a lot of awesome help from awesome people to do this.
No kidding.
Yeah. Mouse Matt.
You keep saying how you're such a small indie company, with Prince Andrew and NASA at your disposal.
We love them.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But we are a tiny indie company, and this is what's so bizarre.
I've lost
your
your beautiful face.
Oh, have you?
I have.
Yeah. Shouldn't have. Oh, sorry.
There you are.
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Yeah. So no, we are a tiny indie, but we've fallen in with an awesome crowd. Microsoft, royalty. I can't pretend to have fallen in with royalty, but we've had 15 very useful minutes with His Royal Highness, and everyone who we talk to falls into one of two camps. So either those people who just say, no, you can't be doing this, it cannot be done, and we get a lot of that. It's just not possible. It's feasibly not technical. And if it was technical, how can a tiny Indie of 5 people do it? You know what I mean? And to be fair, it's not just a tiny team of 5 people. Microsoft have given us awesome help. Because this is cloud computing, and the guys, Windows Azure is Microsoft's cloud computing platform, and it's very, very cool, and they've helped us out with understanding how that all works and getting it all plugged in and getting it all working together. But the code and the everything has to work together. Your front end client rendering, which we've chosen the web browser, which again I think a lot of people who've never heard of WebGL will be hopefully thinking, wow, that looks really good. I didn't know WebGL was possible with that. I didn't know you could do gaming natively in the browser that wasn't in Flash, that even looked half like this does. That's terrible grammar. But and hopefully they'll be saying that's awesome. But then there's also the networking relay, and then there's also the physics engine and the interest management algorithms and all of that sort of stuff, which we've built all of these from scratch, because at this level of the extreme and scale, you can't use off-the-shelf components. I mean, you just simply can't. Off-the-shelf software, off-the-shelf physics engines, forget it. It will not be fast enough for what you need, the speeds that you need to get to make this work. I'm sorry. I'm saying that as like absolute category. I'm putting myself as bad as the people who say it can't be done. I'm saying it can't be done. They can't do it either. That's terrible. Maybe they can. Maybe I'm totally wrong. But we kind of like people say about us, believe it when I see it. But hopefully everyone in the world will be seeing this, in a couple of weeks' time.
Well, we're pretty much running it to the end here. but full launch for this game is expected in 2015, right?
Yeah, yes, definitely 2015 and possibly 2014. It depends. If it's 2015, it's going to be early in 2015. So it depends on again, how much money and how much interest we get, how much money we get from Kickstarter. Because if we get more money, we can hire more people. We can get more done more quickly. But the thing is, there is a team, there are people working on this already. So we've got stuff happening. And I also, whilst I'm absolutely passionately excited about Age of Ascent, I also want to spend a bit of time working on some of the stuff for Illyriad as well, because that's, as I say, been a little neglected over the last few months. And there's a lot of stuff that we need to develop for Age of Ascent that we may as well develop in Illyriad and then bring it across, because a lot of the components of the code can be shared modularly. And we could start writing some of that Illyriad stuff to scale, now. Because now we kind of understand scaling and elasticity, and it's it's really fun to see.
For your world record attempt in a few weeks, in a couple weeks, we're not sure.
Date to be confirmed.
Date to be confirmed. Where can people go? Everyone's welcome, right?
Everyone's welcome. All you need is a modern web browser, not Safari. Not saying that Safari isn't a modern web browser, just Safari doesn't have WebGL on by default. We haven't tested it in Safari. IE11, Chrome, Firefox, Opera, a web connection. It does not have to be super fast fiber broadband. 300 bits a second is, in a full battle with, I was about to say a number, but with lots and lots of ships, your network connection might possibly use half a meg, but that's it. So, decent internet connection, relatively all right hardware. As I say, it's not going to run on your mobile phone. It's not going to run on a low-end tablet. It definitely won't run on an Apple tablet because that's Safari. But, any old laptop with default graphics card is fine. They all work. And just turn up to www.ageofascent.com. That's the URL. There's a mailing list there which you can sign up to, entirely optional. We won't spam you. It's just we'll keep you up to date with what we're doing, when we're doing it, all the rest of it. We won't be spamming you, and we don't sell mailing lists, and we're not that kind of company. And the only last thing to say is, bring your fun hat on, because this is just going to be. No one's ever seen a battle like this before. No one's ever, except in the real war,
Right.
I suspect some of the wars of the roses.
They haven't seen a battle quite like this.
But this, and weirdly, we don't know how. We think we know how fun it's going to be, but as you say, how are we going to get? How is there going to be a situation where people just spawn and die immediately? We don't really know. I mean, we'll obviously have sort of. You won't be spawning in the same place. There'll be some randomization of it. And we probably will actually also shift you in space. So if there's one space station that the red team or the blue team has won, then is camping the space station. Yeah, the first time you come out, yes, you'll die immediately. And the second time, you'll actually be coming out on a different space station anyway. So we'll find some way around that. But we don't know. We honestly don't know what the fallout will be of a battle of this magnitude. Because those Eve-sized battles, 4,075 players or whatever, they run for hours and hours and hours, and Eve isn't a direct piloting game, so a lot of it's spent, and you're at 10% clock, so a lot of it's spent with not very much happening, and you just, that sounds like I'm denigrating it. I'm not, but there's you're just switching targets, you're listening to your TeamSpeak or Vent or whatever it is, and there's a lot of that sort of going on. But the battles, this is fast paced. Is what I'm saying, and I'm not saying that it's slow paced.
The TeamSpeak thing that you just brought up, that's when I'm really excited, when this really gets going, and clans are formed, and there's one commander leading a whole army against another commander. That's going to be so cool.
I'm really excited about that. And we're also really excited because there's hopefully the web audio specification, or the web RTC specification, which is real-time chat like Vent and TeamSpeak built natively into the browser. So you won't have to have your Vent or TeamSpeak. You can actually have it run through your browser connection. Again, that sort of democratizes it, so everyone has it, and we don't have to program it. So that would be really cool. But yes, the just the sheer scale of this is, I think it's going to create a whole new set of challenges for players to overcome. In terms of alliance management and fleet management, and a lot of things that they've not had to face before. Because when you are, I was about to give you a number again, when you do have a very large number of ships in lots and lots of pots, lots of squadrons or fleets or whatever, maybe multiple fleets, and they're all working together, how do you effectively command that? And I actually think there'll be a lot of quite serious military people who will probably get quite into this. I really hope so.
Great. So the game you can check out at ageofascent.com.
Yeah.
And Illyriad games we can check out where?
www.illyriad.co.uk. If you can go to illyriad.com as well, and it'll just send you to co.uk. But we're a Brit company, so we're actually transatlantic now, Brit and American, because I'm living out in the States. Illyriad.co.uk. And if you want to last thing, if you want to send me an email, stormcrow@illyriad.co.uk.
Is that your character's name?
Yeah, it was my GM name, my GM Stormcrow, and my CTO is GM Thundercat, and our art director is GM Cerberus. So yeah, we've all got stupid names, I'm sorry. But stormcrow@illyriad.co.uk, and that's my email address, so you can send me an email.
All right. The game, once again, Age of Ascent, or Illyriad, the company Illyriad Games, and we've been speaking with the CEO, James Niesewand. Thank you so much for being here.
Brilliant.
It's going to be awesome.
Thanks, Mark. I really enjoyed it. It was great talking to you.